Today we are taking first law of motion of chapter 9, that is force and laws of motion. So the topic is first law of motion. Now we know in earlier chapters that what are balanced and unbalanced forces we have done. Can anybody tell what are unbalanced and balanced forces? Yes.
When two or more forces are applied on an object such that the net force is equal to 0, we can say that it's balanced force. And when two or more of those forces are applied on an object and the net force is not equal to 0, we say that it's unbalanced.
Yes, we have seen that when the net force on an object is 0, the motion is not started and they are said to be balanced forces. And when the net force is not 0, then the motion starts and they are said to be unbalanced forces. Okay. So unbalanced force is necessary to cause the motion. Now before we start this first law of motion, let us do some activity. This is an inclined plane and we will see that the ball moves on that. If the slope is low, it is moving with a low velocity, small velocity. Further, if I increase the slope further, it will go more fast and it will cover large distance. So Galileo observed this and told that when an object is initially allowed to fall from a given height, it will move till it will achieve the same height from which it was falling. So later on Newton also studied that and we got Newton's first law of motion. Okay. Now there are other different phenomena that he observed in daily life. When we shake the tree, what happens to that? Can anybody tell? Yes.
So when we shake the tree, the leaves fall.
Yes. So when we shake a tree, we observe that the leaves, some of the leaves fall. Another observation that we commonly observe is when we are sitting in a bus and the bus suddenly starts, what happens? Yes, please Saisha.
So we fall backwards.
We fall backward. When the bus suddenly starts, we fall backward. Similar way, when the bus suddenly stops, what happens? Yes, Navkaran.
So we fall forward.
When the bus suddenly stops, then we fall forward. So these are the common observation. Now another activity that I would like to show you is, this is a duster. Dust is deposited on that. When we hit it with a stick, what do you observe? Dust particles are coming out again. This is a common observation you do regularly at home while you are cleaning a carpet or a duster. We see this thing. Another activity that I would like to show is this. This is a simple glass and this is a play card. When we put it on that and we place a small weight, that is a coin, it can be 5 rupee coin also, it can be, but here we have a laboratory weight. When we strike, what happens?
The coin falls in the glass. Falls.
So all these activities that we have observed, one thing is common in that the object wants to remain in its own state. If it is in state of rest, it will try to remain in state of rest. If it is in state of motion, it will try to remain in its state of motion. As we have seen in this case, the coin was in the state of rest. As we started the motion, the card was able to move, but the coin wanted to remain in state of rest, so it fell down. Similar way, when we were hitting the duster with the help of a stick, the dust particle deposited on that, they wanted to remain in their state of rest, but the duster was moving, so they were able to fall down like this. Similarly, when we are sitting in a bus and the bus suddenly starts, so our body wants to remain in state of rest. Suddenly the bus starts and we fall back. In the similar way, when we are moving in a bus, we are continuing in the state of motion. Suddenly the bus stops, but our body wants to remain in state of motion, so we fall forward. So all these observations lead to first law of motion that was given by Newton. So you can write Newton's first law of motion. An object remains in its state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line till an unbalanced force acts on it. Yes, now due to this first law, we have seen that it could be dangerous to sit in a bus when it is when it suddenly starts or suddenly stops. So that is why seat belts are provided in our cars, so that we do not feel a sudden jerk. Okay. So now, what is the reason for that? Why the body tries to remain in state of rest or of motion? One important factor is there, which is called inertia. Okay. So what is inertia? Can anybody tell? Yes.
Inertia is the natural tendency of an object to resist a change in its state of motion in a straight line or of in rest.
Yes, very nice. Inertia is defined as the tendency due to which an object tries to resist or oppose any change in its state of rest or of uniform motion along a straight line. Okay. So the first law is due to inertia, so sometimes it is also called law of inertia. Now, on what factor does the inertia depend? Can anybody tell? Yes.
Inertia depends on mass.
Yes, inertia depends on mass of the object. Can we see that by a simple activity? Now we are doing a simple activity. This is a simple glass and we are having a play card here, simple play card. We put it like that and we place a small weight or a coin on top of it. Now as I strike this card, you will see what is happening. The card moves but the coin falls. So we observe that the coin wants to remain in its state of rest. So that we have seen, the coin wants to remain in state of rest. Now to explain inertia, we see two things. To explain inertia, I am having this ball. This is a plastic ball. Its weight is very light. So when we strike it with this small force, like with the use of a simple paper, it is able to move, okay, with a little force. Now if I place an heavy ball, like this is a lead ball, if I strike with almost the same force, it will move little or negligible. Okay, so there is almost no motion with the same force. Now similarly, if we want to stop this plastic ball, suppose this ball is moving and we want to stop it, we can stop it with little force. Now when a heavy object is moving, like this heavy ball, we are not able to stop it with the paper piece. So this explains inertia, and it shows that mass is the measure of inertia. More the mass, more is the inertia, means more is the tendency to remain in its state of rest or of uniform motion. If a heavy object is in state of rest, then it is difficult to move it in comparison with the lightweight object. More force is needed to move it. Similarly, when the object starts motion, so it is very difficult to stop a heavy moving object like a train. We can't stop a train. We can stop a bicycle by some force if it is moving slowly. So it is very difficult to stop a heavy object which is moving in comparison with the lightweight. So this is inertia. Inertia is the tendency to remain in state of rest or of uniform motion along a straight line. And mass is the measure of inertia. More the mass, more is the inertia of the object. So we have seen mass is the measure of inertia, more is the mass, more is the inertia. That means the tendency to remain in state of rest or of uniform motion along a straight line is more in case of heavy object than in comparison with the lightweight object. Okay. So more the mass, more is the inertia. So now today what we have done Newton's first law of motion. What is that?
Law of inertia.
Law of inertia, and it states that every object tries to remain in state of rest or of uniform motion along a straight line, and it has tendency to oppose any change or resist any change in its state of rest or of uniform motion if there is. And what is inertia and mass relation we have seen? More the mass, more is the inertia. So this is that. Next time we will see what is second law of motion and the third law of motion.